Today we're going to start building this set of knives. These are metal templates, but they'll be the profiles I'll be using to build the wire-handled style Japanese chef's knives. I'll be using this Bakoti for the handles and a special handle material for the bolsters, and I'll show that to you later. These will all be stock removal. That's right. That ain't real knife making. Here we go. So how do you suggest I build these knives? You got to forge your knife, forge a point on it, forge a bevel, all that. That's what I figured. So yours are forged only, and you make your steel, get out there and smelt it, the whole 9 yards, get your handle material from a tree or animal, something like that, right? How else you supposed to do it? Yeah, you buy bars of steel or you use junk steel. Sometimes. Yeah, I think you use more junk steel than you buy your steel. Well, just know that the steel I buy comes from a mill already forged. It's either hot roll or cold roll. It's already annealed, everything. I'll do some thermal cycling, but I don't really have to. I'll do the heat treating and all that stuff. But forging a knife has a lot more to do than forging a point on it and putting an edge on it. Handle ergonomics, proper grinds, proper grind lines, clean bevels. Anyway, these are going to be stock removal only. So why don't you go out and forge some Japanese knives and let's see how they look. Well, maybe I will. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is get these templates traced out on some W2 steel and get them profiled. What I've got here is a piece of W2 steel, 1.5 inches wide. I've got a piece of 2 inch. I'll be surface grinding these to the thickness I want. But first thing I'm going to do is trace these templates out. Now, I'm not trying to be totally traditional here, but they will be ish, I should say. They'll have traditional looking handles, octagon, that sort of thing. So I'll do all of them the same way and we'll get them cut out. So now I'm going to go ahead and surface grind these blades. Since I got them profiled where I want them, I'll come back in and cut the shoulders after I heat treat. But I want to surface grind them down to around 100 thousandths. I'll do all 6 of them, then I'll heat treat them and grind them. Now with the blade surface ground up to 220 grit, I then took them over to my belt sander and finished them up to 600. Now for a really good Hamon, you want to get up to 1,000 or so grit, but I'm not going traditional here. Actually, I'm not going to grind the bevels till after heat treat. The Hamon probably won't be as pronounced. Customer didn't ask for it, but he gives me creative freedom, which is the best customer. I'm going to be using a refractory called satinite or satinite. It is a clay that you'll mix with water, and normally used in a forge or any kind of process that needs refractory. There's a lot of different ones you can use. There's new clay. There's several companies sell products just for Hamons. But this has worked pretty good for me in the past, so I'm going to use it here. I'm going to go ahead and apply the clay before I heat treat. Then I will finish grinding afterwards. But let me know what kind of refractory you use in the comments. I really like setonite. Let's get her done. I've put some lines here. Let me know kind of roughly where I want to go with the clay. I'll get it applied, let it dry for about 24 hours. I want it completely dry before I heat treat. I'll be doing other projects while this is drying. Now, Hamon really just means differential heat treating. And it was used to soften the back or make it softer than the edge. But it turns out it leaves a very nice looking effect. And that's what we're going to try to do here, somewhat roughly following my guideline. And you can see it's very thin. You don't want it too thick. It may cause some other issues like warping your blade when you quench it, which is probably going to happen anyway with the bigger blades. But you don't want a straight line. It's just not fun. Looks kind of dull and boring. And we'll do this all down both sides of the blade. And I'll put a little on the spine so we have even differential heat treating. And I'll do that on both sides, on every blade. So while I'm waiting on the blades to temper, I'm going to go ahead and start doing some handle prep. The special material for the bolsters I was going to use, this buffalo, is the wrong diameter. I needed at least 1.25 inches to work with. It's 1 inch, so that'll be for another project. So I'll be making different bolsters. I'll be using some vintage micarta with some vintage linen micarta on each side. The first thing I want to do though is I'm going to use the wooden dowel method, the hole with the dowel, and split the dowel to go into the blocks. Because I've got such thin material, I can't bore a 100 thousandths or less hole and get it square all the way through this block. So drilling a hole, putting a split dowel in there, lining it up, and then I'll just mill the front of the bolster where the blade will fit up. So right now I'm gonna get these dowels cut, get them split, then I'll do some squaring on these blocks and get the bolsters cut. So while I was squaring up blocks, I also went ahead and got the bolster end ready. And you can see what I'm doing here. I got linen micarta, black linen micarta on the in and outside with some vintage canvas micarta in the center. What I'm going to do is go ahead and epoxy these together. They'll be ready. I'll get them squared up and ready when I get started on the handles. They'll be ready to go. So I've already got some epoxy mixed up here. I'll have this stuff from one end to the other before it's over. That's the way it goes. Like I said, I'm gonna have it everywhere. I know it, I feel it, and I'll do them all the same way. So it looks like we got all the handle material ready to go. Got the bolster ends done, got the block squared up, even marked centers for when I go to drill the holes for the dowels. And we also got blades out of temper. What I've done, as you can see, I've knocked the scale off. You can kind of see the Hamon pattern in some of these. And now I'm ready to start grinding. But they came out good and straight. All of them are ready to mark and start grinding. I'll come back and cut these guard shoulders last, taper these tangs out where they need to be, and work on handles later. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm not going traditional, meaning that I'm not going to be following every traditional step, including the bevel. So most Japanese knives are ground on one side. Depending on if you're right or left-handed, you'll have a bevel here and a flat side, maybe a slightly hollow on this other side. And this is for precision control. If you're cutting sushi, for example, this will make your sushi come out and you can see where your edge is when you're coming down on your sushi, and it won't push it this way. But the customer that these knives are for doesn't want that. He wants them all beveled on both sides, and we're going to make what the customer wants. He doesn't have $500 whetstones and is not going to be spending the time to learn how to sharpen those. He wants them double beveled, all of them on both sides. I'm just going to put center lines here. I've got some blue layout here to see the line. I'm actually marking two lines that are very close together. All right, with the bevels ground, it's time to move on to the next step, which is hand sanding. Then I'll etch the logo, cut these guard shoulders, and start on the handle material. We got to do that on the next episode. We're out of time. I'd like to thank you for watching. Thank you to my patrons, and we'll see you on part 2.